Hello everybody, welcome back to another video where I talk over a game. And today I wanted to kind of talk about office politics and how we are really bad at them. And if you hear some sounds occasionally, the dog decided to join me on my lap today because for some reason whenever I start speaking into a microphone, she gets very excited. Usually she just leaves the room because for whatever reason it's intimidating. But today she wanted to sit on my lap. Anyway, so there may be some sniffling occasionally. So office politics and why we're not good at them. The thing is, if you're neurodivergent, you're likely to take things more at face value than others would. And I'm not going to say that you're going to take everything literally, because I don't think that's 100% true either most of the time, but there are certain things, certain assumptions that you might make that make it difficult for you to understand some of the nuance of what's going on. For instance, for the past 2 years, I've tried to teach my fellow teammates how to work according to more of a schedule and a planning, that type of thing. I've tried to do Scrum with them. I've tried to do Kanban with them, just tasks on MS Planner and stuff like that. Try and get like weekly stand-up meetings, etc. And they think that they're planning, but they're actually not. They're just doing all the things that they normally would without any particular structure, but because they occasionally make a little card for it on MS Planner, they now think that they are planning. But okay, so they're not very good at it, and I've tried to teach them to be good at it for the past couple of years, like I said, and then at the end of each of those years, we had a feedback session. I may have mentioned that at some point during another video. And during each of those sessions, I got the feedback that I was too direct, I was too rude, and they felt like they had to walk on eggshells around me or something, I don't know what. Now, personally, I of course don't really recognize that. Like, I think that I'm just being matter of fact. I'm not yelling at anybody. If somebody does something wrong, let's say on the planner board, I'll say, hey, you need to put that card over there or something like that. And that'll be the extent of it. But for some reason, that alone is super bad. And that was one of the things that got me called too direct and too rude, etc., over the past 2 years. Now, during the rest of the year, they wouldn't actually give me any feedback, and during the second year, I actually had monthly sessions that I set up where they could give feedback on how the team was working, and that also includes how people feel that the team members are working, because that is part of teamwork. If you feel like somebody's not really doing a good job or there's something wrong between you and them, that affects the teamwork. So you have to mention that during the team feedback sessions. But during each feedback session, it was all like, oh no, everything's fine, everything's perfect, I think we do a really good job, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I guess that means that we don't really need the rest of the session, let's talk about something else, like that type of thing. And then at the end of that year, I got probably the worst feedback of all, where they compared me to Dolores Umbridge of Harry Potter. And if you don't know Harry Potter, that universe, Dolores Umbridge is basically like a Nazi in a pink fluffy cardigan. So, or some type of fascist or some incredible mean person who is such an enormous, like a lawful evil, strict person who basically stabs you with a smile, like that type of person. And I am nowhere near Dolores Umbridge levels of trying to remind people how to do their planning tasks. But okay, so apparently they thought so, and they thought it was hilarious, that comparison, and they, at the end of the session, were like, oh, we should do this more often, this type of feedback session. And I'm like, how is this supposed to be fun? Like, how could you describe this as fun? Basically, I had 3 people shooting me down, and then they think it's hilarious or whatever. So anyway, so that is their level of feedback that I've gotten over the past few years. And then recently, we had a new coworker come in, and of course the existing coworkers had to tell them exactly how amazing they were at their job, and part of that was also to talk about how they now do all the planning stuff, thinking that they're great at planning still. And I made like an offhanded comment of, oh well, it's not really what it should be, like it's not at the right level, so to speak. So, and then they were like, oh well, if you think we need to do better planning, why don't you just remind us when we're doing something wrong? And I was like, well, if I do that, then I get called rude again at the end of the year. And then they said like, oh, you just need to let that go, like let that part go. And then I said, well, if you stop telling me that at the end of every year, maybe I could, like that type of thing. But at that point, I was basically told by both people that were in the room with me that I was now souring the atmosphere, I guess, because me being, I guess, honest is now an issue. But if somebody else has some issues or whatever, even if I think they say it in pretty much the same way that I said it, it's because they said it that it's okay. Like that's also the halo and horn effect. Halo effect being if you have something about you that makes others think that you're a good person, then things that you do will be softened via the halo effect. And the opposite is, of course, also true if you have a bit of a horn personality, at least people don't like you for whatever reason, then everything that you do gets the horn effect, and it's made to seem worse in their mind. And I think that a lot of neurodivergent people will have that horn effect about them, even if they're trying not to. So combine that with being a little blind to the nuances that are often in conversations between neurotypicals. If you make any misstep, that's going to make that misstep seem many times worse than if it were made by somebody who they do like or who has that halo effect. So that's also something to keep in mind, like how do people view you? Because that also influences how your missteps are treated or taken. In other words, if a person with a halo effect comes in one day and forgets to say good morning, then they're like, okay, I guess they're busy. And if you come in one day and forget to say good morning, it's like, oh my God, they always do that. They always disrespect us and stuff like that because you have the horn effect. Like when I was still a bigger person back in the day, you have that bit of a halo effect of, oh, the chubby person is probably fun to be with, like that. And the things that I said were nowhere near taken as seriously as they are now. And I'm not exactly skinny now, but and that somehow makes that halo effect disappear. And now I have the horn effect of, oh my God, they're so direct and they're so rude. And they just keep saying all these nasty things when all I'm really doing, or what I think I'm doing, is just being matter of fact and just trying to tell people, hey, maybe you should do this, or maybe you shouldn't do that, or something along those lines. And I've actually stopped trying to tell people that. It's kind of funny because I started withdrawing, basically. I used to have lots of decorations on my desk and stuff, like showing personal effects of mine, showing a bit of personality here and there. I had a couple of things strewn about the office, and then when they gave me that feedback, in particular, the second round in particular, I basically got rid of everything. I cleared my desk, like clean desk policy. Nothing of mine was actually showing, and I stopped really talking much. I stopped responding to most of the things that people said around me because I used to hear, of course, what everybody was saying. And if it was something that I thought I could help with, I would make a comment, or I'd ask them a question, or try to answer one of their questions or something like that. And then, I don't know, it would help or it wouldn't, I don't know. But I just stopped doing that because I guess they didn't want that, because I was considered rude, even though I didn't think that I was being rude at any point in time. So that rudeness had to come from somewhere, and that meant I was just kind of withdrawing myself. And since then, actually, I think relations have improved now that I have stopped showing myself. And this isn't even really masking, it's more like shutting down. And apparently I need to shut down and be quiet for people to at least not think that I'm being rude or something. And I guess they're annoyed whenever I bring that up, that people called me that, because they don't like to be reminded of negative things that they said. But it's also never really been discussed or even just vaguely spoken about how that affected me. And how I couldn't possibly have done any better because it didn't give me any feedback in the moment itself when I was supposedly being rude. So how could I change for the better? But still, I get that label. Anyway, so other people who are neurodivergent will probably have similar issues in office spaces because of the horn effects and the taking things at face value. There's only so much you can do about that. So I wish you good luck out there. If you have any experiences on how you can fix things like that, I would also like to know that. So make sure to put that in the comment section below. In any case, thanks for listening. I hope to see you in the next video, and bye-bye for now.